Ladies and gents, welcome back. Now, a lot of people are pretty worried, rightfully so, about the threats that have been issued by the federal government in Canada as of recent. So the threats that have been given out is for seizing and putting a freeze or a hold on people's personal bank accounts for having donated to the trucker convoy. Now, this is what the Justin Trudeau's finance minister said when he was on the news yesterday.
Look, you've just compared people who may have donated to this to the same people who are funding maybe a terrorist. I just want to be clear here, sir. This is really important. A lot of folks says, look, I just don't like your vaccine mandates and I donated to this. Now it's illegal. Should I be worried that the bank can freeze my account? What's your answer to that?
Well, I think if you are a member of a pro-Trump movement who's donating hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars to this kind of thing, then you ought to be worried.
Look, you just
so more of the same rhetoric, but no actual real answer. So, and this is where things get muddy. The things get muddy here because what they're insinuating is that they're going to go after people for laws that did not exist, right, at the time of people making the donations. So what we're saying here is that people donated in good faith to an organization that was on the books as a legitimate thing, and then the government then afterwards declares a state of emergency and that these are terrorists. They haven't actually made a declaration that they're terrorists, only talking. They haven't like signed anything and said this is a terrorist organization, anything like that. So my opinion is that it seems like they're veiled threats, like they're very, very veiled threats. Now, again, what I spoke about yesterday in yesterday's video and what Viva Fry actually was talking about yesterday was how the CBC had been contacting people saying that we found your information on the leaked data that was illegally hacked from GiveSendGo, and we're contacting you just to confirm if that was you. And it seems like a phishing attempt, and it seems like intimidation on the part of the CBC. And Viva Fry actually called them out. He contacted the CBC person and talked to them and said, do you understand that this seems like intimidation? This seems like that's what exactly you're doing. And they came back with a typical response. Oh, we're unaware that we were doing that. Don't want people to get the wrong, whatever. So that's what's happening. Also, when a person from state-run media in the Communist Party is calling out the government of Canada, you know something's wrong. So this particular individual calling out Justin Trudeau for his Emergency Powers Act, saying Hong Kong cannot invoke national security law against violent petrol bomb-throwing mobs, but Canada's Trudeau can invoke emergency powers to crack down on peaceful pro-freedom protests. What's the logic? Now, I don't agree with what he's saying. I think the people of Hong Kong are fighting. Yes, there's violence, but they are fighting for their freedom. We all know what's going on in China at the moment. But that's, yeah. I mean, when China's calling you out, come on, let's get real. Now, the Conservatives jumped on the ball to give their opinion on too many things and politics as usual. But this is Candice Bergen, and she came out to talk about the Emergency Powers Act.
We believe that the trucks parked outside illegally should move. They are there illegally. You cannot park on Wellington for days and days on end. That is illegal, and they need to move those trucks. We also, though, know that many of those people are our neighbors. They are our constituents. They are Canadians who want to be heard, and they should be heard. Now, what we know is that Justin Trudeau disagrees with them. He doesn't like their opinions. He doesn't want to hear them. And so we cannot support the Emergencies Act. We don't believe that it's the right thing to do. Let's be very clear how this all started. The Prime Minister decided to impose a vaccine mandate on truckers. There was no scientific proof or evidence that it was the right thing to do. Truckers opposed it. Many Canadians opposed it, but he went ahead with it anyway. Truckers came to Ottawa, and their supporters came to Ottawa, and Justin Trudeau, first of all, hid for a week, and then he began to call them names and say that their opinion was unacceptable and we shouldn't tolerate these people. And that was about all he did to try to rectify the problem or even let these folks know that they were being heard. So the first act that he does when he has a chance to do something, he doesn't go through step 1, 2, 3. He goes straight to 100 and invokes the Emergencies Act. And at the same time, we're seeing borders clearing at Coots, at Windsor, where I'm hearing in Manitoba, it's starting to clear. And so that it really begs the question why he would take this drastic action. There's a lot of questions
Yes, there's a lot of questions for why he's taking this drastic action. But what's most important about this particular thing that Candice Bergeron said is that they do not support this act. Now, I think what they're banking on is people's ignorance in this whole situation. Now, the Emergencies Act, which was the War Measures Act previously, has to go through the government. It has to be voted on. So the rule is that they invoke the act, and then they have 7 days to table the act, and then it has to be passed. And it has to be passed in both the Parliament and the Congress. So this is not by any means something that he can do unilaterally. Now, we're all hoping that the people representing our constituencies are going to stand up for the Canadian people and not invoke the War Measures Act. This is ridiculous that we're even talking about this. But yeah, so I think a lot of it is people, banking on people's ignorance of how the government actually works. Now, another thing about people's ignorance is this constant thing about talking about foreign-funded, largely foreign-funded thing. So I have a graph here showing just how much of it was foreign donation. Oh, sorry, no, this is the Justin Trudeau Foundation by fiscal year, and how much is foreign donations. Let's get that other graph up. Yeah, okay, here's the GiveSendGo. So yeah, 55% of donations looks like came from the United States of America, and 39% came from Canada. Great Britain was 2%, and then there's a bunch of other nationalities in there, in that whole mix of things. Now, I don't know of any law where people who are protesting for a cause are not allowed to have donations come from outside of Canadian borders, because that would probably inhibit things like Greenpeace and a lot of donations that people who are opposing this actually do support. So until there's a law on the books, or I'm become aware of a law that's on the books, if anybody out there knows about a law like this, please let me know. But the strategy, as we know, is largely this. This is the Trudeau strategy for dealing with protests in Canada. This is first rung would be speaking with protesters, and then maybe creating targeted legislation to address the specific needs of the truckers. Follow the lead of other jurisdictions, like the other provinces and countries, by lifting COVID restrictions. But no, he just jumps right over that to suspending civil liberties. And we're getting case after case of what he supports versus what's going on here. So here's India, the farmers' protest that was occurring just last year when they held their protests, the government had 11 rounds of negotiations with those protesters. There were no arrests for blocking roads. And then they took the matter to court. And they're ranked 53 on the democracy ranking as a flawed democracy. But in Canada, refused to hold talks with protesters, froze bank accounts of protesters, imposed national emergency. Let's not forget about slanderous allegations and libel. Democracy rank 5. Full democracy. The democracy rankings are a joke, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, that's all I got for you in this moment. Stay tuned, and as always, keep on trucking.